ahead.
I'm Rob.
I'm Matt.
I'm Steve.
I'm Big.
According to Miranda Hiddey of the World Health Organization, in the time it takes me to finish this speech, 40 people will die in part from a nicotine addiction, and 5.4 million people worldwide will be dead by the end of 2009. Now, being myself addicted to nicotine and a smoker, I understand and am fully aware of many of the potentially harmful and deadly side effects that come with having a nicotine addiction. My hopes for this speech are to inform you all of some other aspects of nicotine you may not have been aware about before, other than the most popular ones, like cancer. I'll be discussing with you three aspects of nicotine today. The first one being the percentage of people addicted to nicotine in the United States. The second one being the effects nicotine has on a person's mind. And the third one being the effects nicotine has on a person's body. 23% of all Americans are addicted to nicotine. Now, if you subdivide that into different age groupings from 10 to 17, 18 to 24, 25 to 44, 45 to 64, and 65 plus, you notice that 23% stays fairly consistent within each of the age groupings on a constant 20%. Children as young as 10 years old have been known to be addicted to nicotine. Now, this has been concluded in part by a study done by Dr. M.L. Clemente Jimenez et al. Called DSM-4A. DSM-4 is known by the APA as Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 4th edition, with DSM-4A being for adolescents. Now, what Dr. Jimenez and his colleagues did was survey 2,677 students from a public, subsidized school to find out the possible percentage of them addicted to nicotine. Upon completion of the survey, it was found that 23% of them, roughly 23%, 611 students, had tried a nicotine-type substance, such as smoking or chewing, and of that 23%, or 611 students, 63.5% smoked cigarettes daily. Of that 611 students, 408, or 70.7% of them, were found to be physically and psychologically dependent on nicotine. Now, there are many reasons why a child as young as 10 years old will pick up a nicotine addiction. Some of these are to include, but not limited to, life problems, stress at home, peer pressure or social acceptance. It's possible if a parent smokes, it leads a child to maybe smoke, and even just a person's personality could get them to pick up a nicotine habit. And this is also evident in the adult community. A similar survey was conducted using DSM-3, or the 3rd edition, where 1,006 adults were surveyed to find out the percentage of them that could possibly be addicted to nicotine. Upon completion of this survey, it was concluded that 231, or almost 23%, of these adults were smokers or had a nicotine dependence, some sort of nicotine addiction. Of that 231, 208, or 90% of them, actually fulfilled the criteria for addiction with withdrawal symptoms, a tolerance, and a dependency in order to function on nicotine. Now, many reasons why a child would smoke are very similar to the reasons why an adult would smoke, with a few added caveats such as a financial situation and even with some jobs offering smoke breaks. This brings me to my second aspect, which would be the effects nicotine has on a person's mind. To start off, nicotine is 1,000 times more potent than alcohol, 10 times more addicting than cocaine and heroin, and accounts for 70 times more deaths a year than all other drug dependencies combined. In the Dictionary of American History, it states that nicotine can only be obtained through the tobacco plant. Now, for a person to obtain nicotine in their body, they only can obtain it through chewing or dipping, absorption through the skin with use of patches, or through smoking or inhalation with certain things like a hookah. This is a way that people here in Kuwait smoke tobacco. You see that fine, Rob? Dr. Leo Aboud found in an independent research he conducted that nicotine affects chemicals in our bodies such as dopamine, acetylcholine, noradrenaline, and serotonin. And the ones I'm going to be discussing with you are dopamine and acetylcholine. Sarah Frayne writes that dopamine is a neurotransmitter produced in the pleasure center of our brain. The production of dopamine causes feelings of reward and pleasure. Now, what this means with nicotine is nicotine addicted individuals can no longer produce dopamine at such high levels, and sometimes even at all, without the presence of nicotine, forcing them to continue the nicotine habit in order to gain those feelings of reward and pleasure. Acetylcholine is in part responsible for a person's learning and memory. Nicotine mimics the chemical properties and characteristics of acetylcholine, but isn't quite the same as it, so it doesn't fit quite securely into the receptors in our brains as acetylcholine does, therefore having an effect on a person's learning and their memory. Acetylcholine is also in part responsible for the production of glucose, and with the production of glucose, it suppresses a person's hunger and raises a person's blood sugar, which is also a reason why people who have a nicotine addiction tend to be less hungry and also have much higher blood sugar than those who do not have a nicotine dependency. Which brings me to my third aspect, which would be the effects nicotine has on a person's body. With a nicotine addiction, there is a physical tolerance and a physical dependency associated with it. For a tolerance, as a person's tolerance rises, so does the amount of that substance or whatever it is they're addicted to they obtain need to also rise in order to meet that tolerance level. Now, if you take this in terms of a smoker, if a person's tolerance on cigarettes or smoking rises, that would mean that they need to smoke more cigarettes to meet that tolerance level. And this could cause things such as a decrease in lung capacity, a decrease in oxygen supplied to the muscles, and forces their hearts to work harder to pump their oxygen-deprived blood through their bloodstream, which could lead to things such as lung cancer, high blood pressure, and even heart disease. Now, physical dependency, there are 6 signs of dependency that it is said if you meet 3 or more, you have an addiction. The first sign being a strong desire to do that substance. The second one being a lack of control in the use of that substance. The third one being doing that substance to avoid a withdrawal symptom. The fourth one is a rise in tolerance. The fifth one is neglecting other pleasures in order to do that substance. And the sixth one is a persistence in doing that substance regardless of the knowledge or known health risks and side effects involved with doing that substance. In conclusion, nicotine isn't only addictive, but can alter the way our minds and our bodies work. I discussed with you 3 aspects of nicotine, the first one being the percentage of addicted Americans today, the effect nicotine has on a person's mind, and the effects nicotine has on a person's body. Nicotine is a highly addictive, psychoactively and physically harmful drug that still affects millions today. Thank you.